To Homeschool Your Way. I'm Janna Koch, your host and Bookshark's community manager. In today's episode, I am joined by Kelly Scimeca. She is a licensed professional counselor. Not only is she that, but she happens to be a lifelong friend of mine of almost 35 years. We're going to be discussing holiday blues, how that affects you as homeschool parents, maybe some tips in identifying if you are suffering from that, and then some ideas on how to combat that. Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So a little background information for our listeners. We have been friends for almost 35 years.
We met at birth.
Right. Because I have 17-year-olds and I'm only 35. Okay. We did, however, start our own podcasting before we even knew what it was in your parents' basement. We were recording those radio shows when we were 9 and 10?
Yeah, we were trendsetters for sure.
We were. And look at us now.
Now doing it for real.
I know. And getting paid for it. And getting paid. We're living the dream, Kelly.
Yes, we are.
So Kelly is not actually a homeschool parent, but she did survive pandemic schooling during 2020. And with her profession of mental health counseling, she has great insight and wealth of information to share with us about this topic. Before we get into that, Kelly, why don't you introduce yourself and let our audience know a little bit about you personally?
Okay. My name is Kelly. I have two wonderful children. We live in a suburb of Chicago in Crystal Lake, Illinois. That's where Janna and I grew up together. And I'm currently working for McHenry County. I'm the director of the specialty courts. So we do mental health court, drug court, DUI court. So our job is to, instead of sending people to prison, we try to rehabilitate them and give them a second chance at life.
Kelly, can you share a life hack with our listeners?
Well, I'm a single mom. So working full time and keeping that schedule, keeping the house clean, it is very overwhelming for me. So we recently started chore charts, and it has worked really well for us. The kids look forward to it. We have them hanging on the fridge. They each have their own. They each have their own assigned chores, and I feel like that visual for them, they know what the expectation is, which is good for everyone. Like, I know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're supposed to do. There's no frustration. They love checking the box. And then the big reward at the end is they can go to urban air with a friend. So it helps me out because they help around the house, and it helps them out to earn a nice reward.
That's super exciting. I remember when we were kids, our parents just told us to do it.
Right. Right. Times have changed.
They certainly have. But one thing that hasn't changed is how people feel about the holidays. And I know personally that I have in the past, and it kind of comes and goes, suffered from this idea of the holiday blues. And I think that is almost an oxymoron in some people's mind, because the holidays are exciting and they're fun and they're jam-packed with social events and things to do. But what actually is holiday blues?
I would describe holiday blues as maybe a change in your behavior or even how you're feeling closer to the holidays, like the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Those are typically when holiday blues show up. That's what I would look for, changes in behavior and how you're feeling.
I have always been an interesting case in all things, but mine actually kind of extend into January, because it's almost like I have a letdown from all of those expectations that kind of compound those feelings of what I thought it was going to be. And then, like life, it just never quite turns out how I think it's going to.
Isn't that interesting? So you kind of like have this built up expectation in your mind. The holidays usually don't meet that expectation. So when it's all over with, you feel disappointed. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think so. And not disappointed in necessarily my family or how it went, but I think I've always been a dreamer. I have a very imaginative, creative idea of how things go. And then when they don't go that way exactly, by the end of it, I struggle with enjoying what did go well and focus on the parts that didn't quite meet my expectations. I can't be the only one.
Yeah, I think it's always easier to focus on the negative because that kind of takes over. Like that's the part we remember. That's the part that ruined the good time. You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty typical.
So, when thinking about holidays as they are approaching, we have this idea of we're excited that maybe family and friends are going to get together, but you might be anxious at the same time that family and friends are getting together.
Hmm. I mean, I think back to my childhood and loved holidays. Holidays meant time off of school, getting together with your cousins, grandparents, lots of food, just a really good time. And as an adult, at least in my life, that has changed significantly because we don't have big family parties anymore. My siblings, one doesn't live in state. My parents just moved out of state. I'm divorced. So there isn't that, grandiose celebration that I'm used to. So as an adult, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sad for my kids that they'll never experience that, which they've never experienced it, so they don't really know what they're missing. So it's my grief, not theirs. Um, I just think it's just so commercialized. And I don't really buy into that. So I hear that, I see it, you're bombarded with it. And you like, oh my gosh, if I don't spend all this money, they're gonna think I don't love them. I'm not gonna be the favorite aunt. I'm not, so we put all these unrealistic expectations on ourselves and we're the ones setting it. We're the ones doing it to ourselves. I guarantee you your family is not saying, well, if Kelly doesn't spend $100 on me, I'm not going to talk to her for a week. So we try and be something that we're not, I think, during that time of year.
And I think we almost idolize the ideal that we want to be. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that everything is homemade. I want to make sure that I bought the best gift that somehow symbolizes my love, regardless of the price, to give to my significant other or my children. And then I'm putting all this pressure. And while I'm excited about the idea of making this all happen, at the same time, I start to feel overwhelmed and burdened by these choices that I'm making that nobody else even knows about because it's all in my head. And again, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the one that weirdo who just looks at the holidays and has two very different feelings about it. Super excited, I'm going to do all these things, and then as reality creeps in and it's Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, and I kid you not, a decade now, I have stayed up till midnight making pies because God forbid we get a store-bought pie on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. Like growing up, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. Everything was homemade. She's a fabulous cook. So that was appreciated. And in my mind, I I can't keep up with that because I'm a working single mom and it's just not realistic. And I do disappoint myself and feel bad. But again, that's me because I want to meet that expectation in my head and I can't. So I just have to accept that it's not the same. It's not gonna be the same. So my Thanksgiving is gonna look very different, but that's okay.
And even this year, with everything going on with the economy, all the things that have happened as a result of the pandemic, I had heard that there might be a shortage of turkeys. And so I was starting to panic like, we cannot have Thanksgiving without a turkey. And the reality is, you can. You can have Thanksgiving without a turkey. I mean,
Right.
yeah, maybe it's not how you have traditionally done it. So when the grocery store, I was interviewing somebody in New Jersey 2 weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, I just got my turkey for Thanksgiving." Panic. I broke out in a sweat. I was like, I haven't seen any turkeys in Colorado. They must not be making it further west. So the other day I was grocery shopping and I saw some turkeys and I'm texting my husband. I was like, should I just get a turkey? We don't want to be without a turkey. I paid about 3 times the amount that I normally pay for a turkey because crazy Jana could not let that go that we would not have a turkey on Thanksgiving. Now, I have no idea what Christmas is going to bring, but even as I brought it home and I looked at the price tag, I was like, wow, was it really? Is it really worth, some people don't, one of my kids doesn't even like turkey.
But hearing you talk, you bring up like a valid point, like you were worried about Thanksgiving. That's what's next. I'm not going to have a turkey. Oh my God, I found a turkey for Thanksgiving. What about Christmas? So even though you fulfilled that need, that worry, that didn't even satisfy your anxiety. It was like, now what? Now what am I going to focus on next of what I'm going to miss out on?
Yeah. So what you're saying is I have FOMO.
I did learn what that meant from your daughters. I don't, well, I guess you could use it in that context, but
Yes. Well, for those of you who are just listening for the first time or haven't listened to all my episodes, my 17-year-old twins love to call me a boomer, which is so not true, but in their minds, I am.
okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just let that one go.
So maybe for some of our listeners, they say, okay, I have a realistic expectation. Money is down, economy is down. I know I have this amount to spend, so I'm not going to stress about that, which I applaud. And I say, good for you. You're further along than me. But it may come out in other ways. It may not just be anxiety about expectations, but there are other ways that holiday blues the symptoms of that kind of sneak in and we might be very unaware of it. So what do you think some of those other symptoms are?
I would say look for increased irritability. Maybe not being able to sleep like you normally do, fatigue, typical depression symptoms, tired, not really feeling motivated to do things that you normally like to do. Those are just a few off the top of my head that I can think of that you should be aware of during the holidays.
Personally, I tend to stay up really late when it starts getting close to the holidays. Again, you guys, insight into my crazy. I have a stack of holiday movies that I feel like I have to get through every year. Otherwise, it's not the perfect holiday. So I will stay up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, even on weekdays, putting in one movie after another, which I enjoy. But then when the alarm goes off at 6 a.m. the next day and I still have everything else I'm supposed to do, plus all of the holiday extras, I start to wonder, like, why do I feel so tired? Wait, I know why I'm tired, but I'm unwilling to give up one or the other. So it's kind of like this, almost like a holiday mania that I get into that which wouldn't necessarily again qualify maybe in someone's mind about holiday blues, but it really is. It's part of the cycle for me. Like it's this go 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 rush rush rush, say everything that has Thanksgiving or Christmas related to it. I have to say yes because it just I don't want to miss out. I don't want the holidays to pass. And I think to your point, trying to recapture that childhood wonder that my parents created and maybe that's the unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm. So looking at that, how could you fulfill that need of watching the movies but not overextend yourself? What do you think some of the things you could do off the
Mm.
top of your head?
Maybe just start them earlier in the day, like have them on in the background because I know them all by heart. Let's be honest. I'm not missing a scene.
Yeah. What if
um
you started earlier in the year or extended past the holidays? Would that be that big of a deal? Or you set a boundary of I can only watch two a day,
yeah.
you know, something, so you're still getting that need fulfilled, but you're not wearing yourself out.
So I hear the theme is moderation.
Well, just reasonable expectations. Yes, moderation, getting, yeah, getting what you need, but in a realistic way.
Sure. So let's move on to another symptom, which is appetite. So either people at the holidays are so busy that they forget to eat, and kudos to them for reaching their weight, their goals at the end of the year. But typically, people tend to do more, get more busy, more tired. So then they eat more. And then at the end of the year, we're looking at the new year going, I'm here again. I did it to myself again. So, what
Right.
are some ways that we can combat that?
I mean, I think you should take a look at your appetites because that can be also be a sign of winter blues. Overeating, undereating, just general changes in your normal appetites. Again, everything in moderation, which you're like, that's dangerous. Like, give me some concrete things I can use. You know, don't restrict yourself. That's only gonna make you eat more later. So just, if you want a piece of the pumpkin pie, then maybe not have so much stuffing. So it's again about balance. I think balance is very important.
And none of this is groundbreaking, but I think sometimes as parents, as homeschool parents, especially who are doing the hard thing for themselves. Any choice we make as parents and in our career is the hard, we're doing the best that we can.
Of course.
But you had mentioned isolation as one of the points. And I think sometimes homeschool parents are already feeling isolated. They started their school year in August with great expectations, and they've gotten to October and it's not turning out exactly how they thought it was going to be because,
Right.
well, that is just life. And then I feel like we're hit with the holidays. So now we have this. I'm looking at my year. It's not going the way I thought it was going to. And we kind of have a choice. Do we jump in the deep end with the holidays and try to make up for the year, right? Or do we recognize that we need grace too? Our kids
Right.
need grace as we are walking through life with them, but we need to recognize this is a different season of life. We are already feeling like we've made choices that are different from other people. And so, how does isolation kind of compound all that?
I think that's a good question. Like me, I feel like an introvert at heart, so isolating actually rejuvenates me. I need that time alone, but I recognize that in myself. That's my normal, typical behavior. Whereas I feel like Gianna is an extrovert. She gets energy from interacting with people and doing social things. That's what fills her cup up. Again, I would just recognize differences in your behavior. Do you normally like to, go have lunch with your coworkers and now suddenly you're sitting in your car by yourself? That would be a red flag to look for. Um, and again, it's about balance and moderation. There's a lot of holiday parties, work parties, friends are having parties. There's just a lot of extra expectations around the holidays. And I would just set boundaries. Those are really important. And it doesn't mean you have to say no to everything, but definitely a yes for what you want to do. And it's hard to do, but learn how to say no. If you don't want to do something, you don't have the time, the energy, or you're going to suffer if you do that. It is okay to say no. Everybody say it now. No. But that is a
No.
hard skill to learn to say no. That's self care. Very important.
I personally have found no does not come naturally for me. It's
For
that's
most
a
people, it doesn't.
I'm a yes gal. I am your yes gal. So saying maybe gives me the space to pause and think about if I really want to do that, if that's beneficial for me, if it's beneficial for my family, because being married now for 18 years, in the very beginning of our relationship, I forgot to kind of take into account my family. And so for personally, for all those years, I just said yes because that's what I wanted to do. And I saw suffering in my relationships with my family. So now saying maybe or let me think about that gives me pause. It gives me time to talk to my family. Is this something that we want to do before I sign everybody up to volunteer at that holiday festival because that's what I want to do? I think that for those who have a really hard time with no, that maybe is a great stepping stone. Start with
Mhm.
maybe. That gives you
Right.
space and pause. And I never knew that that was an option.
Right.
I also
Got
didn't know that no was a complete sentence.
it. No exclamation point.
Correct. Thank you,
Um,
no, period. Like,
right.
I always like, okay, if I'm going to say no, I'm going to have to tell them why I'm saying no. If I'm going to say no, I have to justify my answer. And age is a beautiful thing in some ways because now, thank you, no,
Yeah.
a
Um,
smile and a
and
nod.
and just because you learn how to say no doesn't mean people will receive your no. So, one thing that I've done for a long time, I think even before children, maybe not, I limit to my activities on the weekends to one thing because I need my downtime and my time to rest and recuperate, do my laundry, and just feel good about myself. And if my Saturdays and Sundays are packed, I'm not getting that self-care that I need. So, pick one thing out of all the things you're invited to and go with it. And people will have to understand.
Yeah. And it's a great practice and habit to start this holiday season so that when you make those New Year's resolutions, you can say, okay, yes, this actually is doable.
Mhm.
I can take the time that I need to take. And sometimes people hear self-care and they internalize selfishness.
Mhm.
And that isn't true. But what do you say to someone who is like, if I don't take my child to every holiday event that is available or even that they want to go to, I'm being selfish?
Yeah. I think it goes back to, and this is used a lot in the counseling world, when you're on an airplane and the flight attendant is giving her safety spiel and she tells you, put your mask on first. Think about that. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. So it's really important to take care of yourself so that you can be there and present for all the expectations that you have scheduled. But it is important and it feels awkward because in our culture, it is not the norm. I think things are coming around, and self-care doesn't have to be extreme. It's not a spa day. It's taking a bubble bath with some essential oils. It's taking time out to read your book, getting a pedicure, taking a walk. It's just removing yourself for that care. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think people always take it to the extreme, like, oh, I have to take the day off and soak in a mud bath. It's not that. It's just fitting it in here and there where it's reasonable expectations.
Should we do that? Should we take a day off and go get mud baths?
For sure.
I think a very helpful tip that am now saying to myself and to our listeners, get your family's input. Ask your family what they want, what their expectation is. Because going back to my pies, I'll make 3 to 4 different pies and my family will eat all of the pies. But when I do stop and go, you know what, guys, don't have enough time. I'm going to make two. Which two do you want? They're like, oh, yeah, just these two. And I'm like, okay, like I am crazy. Nobody wanted the 4 different pies. Granted, they eat all the 4 pies, but it's gaining some input from those around you. So
Mhm.
this thing is coming up. Is it something you guys want to do? Should I try to fit it into our schedule? 9 times out of 10, my family, they have no interest in it. Then I'm dragging them along and I'm packing our weekends and I'm trying to get all this stuff done. And my husband's just like, why? No, you're not even enjoying this.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's setting that crazy expectation in your head. I think communication is key for anything. Holiday blues, relationships, sanity. Just communicate because what you're thinking might not be what the other person is thinking, and just get rid of all that confusion.
Yeah. And making assumptions. This is a word that keeps coming up in some of my groups that I'm involved in. Like, are you making an assumption? Am I making an assumption that if I don't provide a turkey and a ham and 4 different types of pies, that my family is somehow feeling that the holiday experience wasn't what they had wanted? Right.
Mhm.
So, the way to avoid assumptions is to ask questions. And I, as a parent, I wasn't modeled that as a child. I wasn't brought in. I wasn't asked questions. And so it's very contrary to my natural parenting style to ask
Mhm.
questions. I have this burden of I need to figure it out and then I need to tell you what to do with it.
Yeah. I think in our generation, it was more of a dictatorship, and now it's more of a democracy. Like, we want input from our children of how they want it to be, whereas us, that's just how it was, you know.
Yeah. How do you think we transition thinking about the holidays and parenting? How do we take steps to change our mindset around how that looks for us?
I would say slow and steady. Anything you do to the extreme is probably not going to stick. So just make little changes here and there. Instead of having 3 glasses of wine, stick to two. So you're still having it, you're still enjoying it, but you're just, limiting that. Limit, your dessert intake. Or if you are going to stay out late, then make sure the next day you have some time to recuperate. Just little things along the way are really what sticks and what are beneficial.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, what other tips do you have for families and parents, listeners who are struggling with this? Maybe even unknown that they're struggling with the holiday blues and they are getting ready to step into this season. And we're here and we're saying, take a deep breath. We want to encourage you. What are some encouraging words you would have for them?
I would say everybody can benefit from counseling. If you've never gone, try it. If it's been a while since you've gone, make an appointment. It might help you. Holidays are a big time for family, and family is not always pleasant, and that's okay. So again, just setting those boundaries, time limits, and reasonable expectations for yourself. I think that, is really self-care during the holidays.
Kelly, I appreciate you taking the time not only to spend time with me, which is one of my favorite things to do in this whole wide world, but also to encourage our listeners to even just start thinking about as we approach the holidays, what are their expectations? How can we, as homeschool parents, just really make sure that we keep ourselves in check so that we can help then teach our children how to be balanced and stay in check? So thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys. We just want to encourage you to have happy holidays. We hope that this episode has given you some food for thought that you might want to take stock in how you're feeling as the holidays are fast approaching. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye bye.